welcome back. We hope you enjoyed those two segments. They're very cool. I am happy to have Dr. Paul Hokemeyer here in the studio with us. Welcome back.
Thank you. It's good to be back.
Just to give us a quick background about yourself, tell us how you ended up here in Telluride and what all you do and specialize in.
Well, I ended up here around 20 years ago. This is, I think, my 20th summer here. I was living in Amsterdam when I first discovered Telluride. I came here with my husband, Jim Johnson, and of course fell in love with the town and the people in it. And I'm a psychologist. I'm a family therapist, licensed as a family therapist. So I work in the realm of addictive disorders and relational disorders. And in this world that we live in, there are no shortage of things to get addicted to.
Well, certainly not. So let's talk about the current media obsession. You know, is it healthy? Is it unhealthy?
Yes, it's unhealthy and it's unhealthy. It's healthy and it's unhealthy. It's like anything in life. There isn't just one way. There's a duality, and so it depends on how you use it. Are you on social media?
Yeah, absolutely. I'm on social media both personally and for work too.
And what do you think? How has it impacted you?
I feel like I've kind of gone through it as a roller coaster where like there's times when I'm really loving it and sometimes I just can't stand it.
Right. So there are basically three key points that I want to make. So it depends on how you use it. So we know empirically that extroverts use it differently than introverts. So if you're an extrovert, which I suspect you are, you use it in a compensatory way. So you use it to enhance the current relationships that you have. If you're an introvert, you use it in a compensatory way to kind of connect with people who you wouldn't normally connect with. So in those regards, it's actually a healthy thing. And we are social creatures. Human beings are social creatures. The nature of social media is that it tends to be egocentric. Meaning that it's really, we are part of a community, but it's very much about us and how we present to the world. And
look what I'm doing.
Look what I'm doing, looking how fabulous. It's a very tailored presentation of the self.
Who's using it the most?
15 to 25-year-olds. I always thought that it was what they call the silver surfers, which were like middle-aged women or women who were 45 to 65. But actually the data shows that it's 15 to 25. And it's important to look at that demographic because it's essentially adolescence. And so
which is a tough enough time as it is.
Right, exactly. And so in adolescence, we're learning how to navigate social interactions. And so that's why it's being used in that way.
How do you see it affecting body imagery, and especially with adolescents and the younger people and how they see themselves or how they present themselves as well, because it's kind of both sides of that.
Exactly. So there has been data that shows that it does have a negative impact on a person's sense of well-being. So that on the one hand, we think that we feel better like, I feel great sitting next to you, right? I have a shot of dopamine, I'm like connected, Pepper's great, I feel good. And that can happen in social media, but social media doesn't present the fullness of our experience, right? So like I talked to you right before we went on camera and got to sort of see the real you, right? Not this veneer of how you present on camera, which is quite gorgeous, isn't it? I mean, I think we need to give a shout out. So it's basically that. So social media just presents this veneer. It's this very surface level of connection.
Is there a bigger scheme that we should be looking at as far as having social media in our daily lives? How should we go about managing it?
Yeah, I think it's important to manage. That's the key word. And so it's important. It's like a car, right? So we can get in our car, we can travel around, and we can see great places, and we can get from A to B. But we don't want to be in our car all day. We don't want to be giving our kids our cars all day and letting them drive around all day. So it needs to be managed in a way, and I think it's important to have expectations about the dark side of social media, that there is a dark side, and being aware that it isn't an accurate representation of the human experience, which is very rich, very nuanced, and it's light and it's dark.
Yeah. Do you work a lot with your patients and managing their social media? Is that something that comes up? Do you have recommendations for them?
You can't ignore it. So I can't tell you the number of times that my patients come into my office and they say, "You're not going to believe what she said," and they pull out their phone and they, it becomes this other entity in the room, in the psychotherapeutic relationship. So at first I thought maybe I should pretend this doesn't exist and like ban it, but
Yeah.
that's not real. That's not reality. And so the goal of therapy is to deal with the truth.
Uh-huh. Especially if it's something that's so present. You know, I feel like most people wake up, look at their phone, go to bed, set their alarm on their phone. The phone
Right.
is so much more than just a phone nowadays, obviously, that it's hard to put it down because you end up needing it for something else.
Exactly. One of the interventions that I did that I thought was rather genius, the client thought it was a little strange, but was I had a client who was saying that he couldn't really get anything done, that in fact he was having serious relationship problems, and so he used his phone to set his alarm. So the minute that he would wake up, he would be on his phone.
Yeah.
And I introduced the novel concept of like
An alarm
an
clock?
alarm clock. Right, exactly. Do you want to come work with me? We can sort of double think. And so it's sort of having that, so that he's not, the first connection that he has in the morning is not with the device. It's with his girlfriend.
Are you seeing an increase in the problems with social media, or do you feel like it's leveled off at all?
I think it's leveling off. I think that there's been a social kickback in terms of, people had this fantasy about what Mark Zuckerberg was, that somehow that he was this god. He's a businessman.
Yeah.
He has a public company, and his obligation is to his shareholders to generate revenue. So I think that we had this fantasy about who Mark Zuckerberg was. He's mining the data that we're putting out there. And so I think that that's part of the awareness in terms of realizing that he's not Mother Teresa. He's not a saint who's going to save the world. And being very mindful about how you present yourself and what you put out there.
How do you see it affecting families as far as, nowadays so many parents are on Facebook and kids are straying away from it and going to other channels?
Right.
Do you even see parents who are like, you need to stop looking at your kid's profile, that's invasion of their privacy, or other elements like that?
Well, it causes huge relational problems, jealousy is huge, right? People looking at their partner's Facebook feed and feeling inadequate, feeling not appreciated, feeling like their partner is out doing something that they don't know about. So it's a profoundly powerful tool that we've introduced into our society and our culture, and we need to use it mindfully. We also need to remember that it's not the devil per se, that when people started writing things down, Plato and Socrates said, oh my God, it's the end of civilization. there goes our minds. So it's,
if they could see us now.
Plato and Socrates would be rolling in their grave. That it's a technology that we just need to use very mindfully and respectfully, and use it to build human connection. I think as a society and as a culture and a world, we're suffering from a huge, we have the us's versus them. We're becoming a very divided society and culture.
And polarization too with everything. And it comes out obviously a lot on social media too, politics or personal ideas, and sometimes it's just good to take a step back.
It is. During the election, there's a lot of, and still, around political issues, there's a lot of venom that's flying around, and
So what are your top 3 recommendations with dealing with devices, social media, even families, and watching your kids on it or anything?
I would say look at it as an energetic. So it's like electricity. So there's power to do extraordinary good, but there's also the power to be destructive. And as you said, manage your use, and don't allow it to be a substitute for this kind of human connection. And the sharing of dopamine and oxytocin, which are endogenous endogenous opioids, which make us feel good, but use it to enhance those relationships and to enable us to be connected in a meaningful way in the world.
Great. Well, thank you so much. Those
Thank
tips
you.
are great. We appreciate you coming in.
It's a pleasure.